lobby of them all. For big coal, big oil, big tobacco, big pharma, big guns, you name it. And this year, with Justice Gorsuch riding with the Roberts Five, the chamber won 9 out of 10 cases it weighed in on. The Roberts Five since 2006 has given the chamber more than 3/4 of their total votes. This year, in all civil cases, they voted for the chamber's position fully 90% of the time. And in these 5-4 cases I've highlighted, 100%. People are noticing. Veteran court watchers like Jeffrey Toobin, Linda Greenhouse, and Norm Ornstein described the court's service to Republican interests. Toobin wrote that on the Supreme Court, Roberts has served the interests of the contemporary Republican Party. Greenhouse has said the Republican-appointed majority is committed to harnessing the Supreme Court to an ideological agenda. Ornstein described the new reality of today's Supreme Court. It is polarized along partisan lines in a way that parallels other political institutions and the rest of society in a fashion we have never seen. And the American public knows it too. The American public thinks the Supreme Court treats corporations more favorably than individuals compared to vice versa by a 7-to-1 margin. 49% of Americans think corporations get special treatment there. Now let's look at where you fit in. A Republican political operative your whole career who's never tried a case. You made your political bones helping the salacious prosecution of President Clinton and leaking prosecution information to the press. As an operative in the second Bush White House, you cultivated relationships with political insiders like nomination guru Leonard Leo, the Federalist Society architect of your court nominations. On the D.C. Circuit, you gave more than 50 speeches to the Federalist Society. That looks like auditioning. On the D.C. Circuit, you showed your readiness to join the Roberts Five with big political wins for Republican and corporate interests, unleashing special interest money into elections, protecting corporations from liability, helping polluters pollute, striking down common sense gun regulations, keeping injured plaintiffs out of court against corporations, and perhaps most important for the current occupant of the Oval Office, expounding a nearly limitless vision of presidential immunity from the law. Your alignment with right-wing groups who came before you as friends of the court, 91%. When big business trade associations weighed in, 76%. This, to me, is what corporate capture of the courts looks like. There are big expectations for you. The shadowy dark money front group, the Judicial Crisis Network, is spending tens of millions in dark money to push for your confirmation. They clearly have big expectations about how you'll rule on dark money. The NRA has poured millions into your confirmation, promising their members that you'll break the tie. They clearly have big expectations on how you'll vote on guns. White House counsel Don McGahn admitted there is a coherent plan here where actually the judicial selection and the deregulatory effort are really the flip side of the same coin. Big polluters clearly have big expectations for you on their deregulatory effort. Finally, you come before us nominated by a president named in open court as directing criminal activity and a subject of ongoing criminal investigation. You displayed expansive views on executive immunity from the law. If you are in that seat, sir, because the White House has big expectations that you will protect the president from the due process of law, that should give every senator pause. Tomorrow we'll hear a lot of confirmation etiquette. It's mostly a sham. You know the game. In the Bush White House, you coached judicial nominees to just tell senators that they have a commitment to follow Supreme Court precedent, that they will adhere to statutory text, that they have no ideological agenda, end quote. Fairy tales. At his hearing, Justice Roberts infamously said he'd just call balls and strikes, but this pattern, 73-0 of the Roberts Five, qualifies him to have NASCAR-style corporate badges on his robes. Alito said in his hearing what a strong principle stare decisis was, an important limitation on the court. Then he told the Federalist Society Stare decisis means to leave things decided when it suits our purposes. Gorsuch delivered the key fifth vote in the precedent-busting and union-busting Janus decision. He too had pledged in his hearing to follow the law of judicial precedent, assured us he was not a philosopher king, and promised to give equal concern to every person, poor or rich, mighty or meek. How'd that turn out? Great for the rich and mighty. Gorsuch is the single most corporate-friendly justice on a court already full of them, ruling for big business interests in over 70% of cases, and in every single case where his vote was determinative. The president early on assured evangelicals his Supreme Court picks would attack Roe v. Wade. Despite confirmation etiquette assurances about precedent, your own words make clear you don't really believe Roe versus Wade is settled law, since the court, as you said, can always overrule its precedent. Mr. Chairman, we've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. The sad fact is that there is no consequence for telling the committee fairy tales about stare decisis and then riding off with the Roberts Five, trampling across whatever precedent gets in the way of letting those big Republican interests keep winning 5-4 partisan decisions. 73-0, Mr. Kavanaugh, every damned time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cruz.